Welcome to Season 3 of Grocery from Her Seat, the Women Grocers of America podcast. This season, you will hear from influential CEOs and industry icons to rising stars and game-changing entrepreneurs. We are bringing you bigger conversations with bolder voices you won't hear anywhere else. Every episode is packed with leadership tips, fresh strategies, and grocery insights for store owners and operators, as well as product and service providers. Grocery from Her Seat is where inspiration fuels action. Now, let's dive into another episode of Grocery from Her Seat, powered by the NGA Foundation and hosted by WGA President Kristin Popp.
I am your host, Kristin Popp, and today I'm sitting down to chat with Chelsea Matzen, Vice President, Foundation with the National Grocers Association. Welcome to Grocery from Your Seat, Chelsea, and thank you so very much for sharing your time with us today.
Hi, Kristin. Thanks for having me.
So, Vice President Foundation, can you share a little more on what that role is and what it all entails?
Yeah, of course. So within the National Grocers Association, we have a nonprofit arm for our foundation. So I am the lead of all of the work that falls underneath our foundation. That traditionally has been a lot of support for the careers of those in the independent grocery industry. So that can be leadership development. It's attracting students into the industry and doing student programming and scholarships. It's helping support the diversity of the industry through the Women Grocers of America. And then we've also been doing a lot of grant programs to help grocers with food assistance programs they can take advantage of. So it's been a really rewarding place to work within the industry. I get to help a lot of individuals and connect on that level.
And I love that you help from all levels, right? So, from, I know student programs and all of that falls under the foundation side of things, but then all the way up towards seasoned executives that are looking to continue their career in some capacity. But you play a critical role in the success of, like you said, Women Grocers of America, WGA. So first, thank you for all you do for that. And second, can you explain your position as it relates specifically to WGA?
Yeah, of course. I consider myself a partner to you and the vice president, Heidi, and all the people on the board to get our programming executed and accomplished and getting people excited about coming. So I'm really just the internal, the NGA champion of WGA and making sure that you all have all the resources you need to succeed. And it's honestly one of the best parts of my job. So I'm very excited to talk about it more.
And we appreciate that. And I wouldn't say you just, because you do play a critical role in helping tie everything together, making sure all the ends meet and everything buttons up nicely so that we can have success in everything that we do. So before we dive in more into your professional perspective, can you share a little on the personal side? I know that you've had an exciting past few years with some more exciting news for the upcoming year. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's been an exciting few years for me personally. I got married about a little over 2 years ago. I bought my first house last year, and I'm expecting my first baby at the end of this year. So I'm just clipping my way through those milestones.
Yeah, but congratulations. Very big milestones in every one of those. Congratulations to you. And I know community is important to you. And in prepping for this conversation, you shared something that's not on your resume that you are proud of. Can you share that?
Yeah, so I'm somebody who, as you said, community is really important to me. And so throughout my life here in DC, I've made it a point to really be a part of long-term communities. So I've been a part of a book club for 10 plus years. I've been in the same workout group for 10 plus years. And it's just been really great to have these pockets of people and really grounding myself in a neighborhood and in a community that I think is just such an important part of feeling like you're grounded somewhere. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and putting roots down in DC, like those communities are what makes me feel rooted.
Well, and I love that. And I wanted to highlight that because I think it's important. And I don't think that you see that as often that people stay in that same community for such an extended period of time, because people drift apart, whether their career takes them that way or their personal life takes them that way. So the fact that you've been able to stay with that community and have that to lean into, I think is amazing.
No, exactly. Yeah. And I also forgot to mention I've also been on the same softball team for over 10 years. We've definitely had people come and go on the softball team. Not everyone can stay, but it's fun to see how it evolves over time and who's there.
I love that you're part of that foundation. Jumping back into your career, can you explain your journey into grocery?
Yeah, of course. So growing up in Ohio, I was very interested in food and the food system, and I didn't know what that was going to mean for me. I was just like, I know I'm passionate about this. Grew up gardening with my dad. And so I ended up coming to DC to study political science. I thought maybe I'll be a lobbyist or who knows what. And then when I graduated, I ended up finding out more about associations that exist and how those work and how they are a supporting feature for various industries. And so I've now worked for over 10 years food system association work. I spent a little over 4 years with the National Farmers Union, helping family farmers, making sure that I did a lot of produce safety work there and running grant programs, working in the foundation on that side. When that grant ended, I was like, I've been on this like farm side of things. I would really like to move and see a different part of the industry. And in particular, grocery was very interesting to me because it was 2020 and the pandemic and the narrative. And it was just everyone wanted to support grocers in some way. And so I was really excited when the National Grocers Association had a job opening to give me the opportunity to see, okay, what are the policies and issues that are really relevant for grocers, and seeing this other side of the industry from, I had been getting it from the field end, and now I was getting it, how do you get it to the consumer side?
And 2020, so nothing like jumping into grocery, both feet. The things to sure.
So exactly.
You got it all. Real quick. So what's inspired you to stay in the industry?
Yeah, so I think what's inspired me to stay within the industry is that it does just feel so rewarding to work with individuals who are part of feeding communities. I think, we all have to make money in some shape, form, or fashion. And there's very few as honest ways of making money as helping feed people. So that's like one of the things I always come back to when I'm thinking about working in this industry.
And you've worked on within the food ecosystem in some capacity for your career, but the industry is ever evolving and mostly at a very fast pace. Is there anyone who's helped you navigate the space, and in what way have they helped you?
Yeah, I would say that, and honestly, WGA itself has been one of the best ways for me to learn the grocery industry and connect with different people who've been willing to explain how what they do impacts grocery, and breaking apart the system for me so that I felt like I had a really great base to keep adding to that. But then I also have had just really great mentors. One of my former bosses, Barbara Patterson with National Farmers Union, was just a great guide for me in how to be a leader, how to ask good questions. Those are all, I think, really important pieces to help me feel like I'm succeeding and learning the industry and being on the right footing.
I love that you mentioned the WGA side of things, because I do, obviously it makes my heart full to hear that, but I do just truly believe the community and the network that's been created within that environment is so strong and so willing to help each other be successful in whatever part of the industry they're in. It's very rewarding that to even just be involved in that in any capacity, member or otherwise, because of the network and the strong community that exists within it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Chelsea, let's chat on leadership. As a leader in your role, what are some things that you have learned, or how do you approach that role?
There's always something you're learning when you're a leader. I feel like it's always important to continue leaning into leadership, what classes or trainings, whatever it might be, because you get something new out of them each time. Or honestly, sometimes it's just a nice reminder of, I think once you go through a day-long training of leadership, can implement one or two things out of that training at any given time. And so sometimes going to another training a couple of years down the line, you get reminded of, oh yeah, the other training I went to had this, but I didn't implement it at the time for whatever reason. And so it's a nice reminder to be like, okay, that's what I'm going to absolutely do this time and take back to my day to day. And so I think it's always important to, as a leader, make sure you're always continuing to learn.
Yeah, and I think that you also shared in our prep for this conversation, you shared a little bit about accountability and making sure that you're holding yourself accountable, which I thought was a great, as a leader, that we're not just expecting that out of our teams, but we're also reflecting on ourselves in that capacity as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think accountability is another kind of key aspect of being a good leader of a team. You're holding other people accountable. You need to hold yourself accountable to getting the job done, or even acknowledging the times when you're like, hey, I know that I fell short in what I wanted to do to support this project, and being able to be transparent and what's going on and maybe why you didn't meet your own expectations. I think that goes a long way with building a team up and building respect.
100%. I couldn't agree more. What are some of the challenges you see leaders facing today, either new challenges or unique from previous generations?
I think one of the maybe unique challenges to leaders today is figuring out where to set boundaries, particularly when it comes to maybe like, we have so much social media and so many other ways of connecting with people that didn't exist, 10 to 20 years ago even. And so I know, personally, I hold myself to a boundary that I don't really connect with people on social media that I work with until we are no longer directly colleagues or directly reporting to each other. I just think that's a healthy boundary unless it's on LinkedIn or via a business platform. But I think navigating how do you bring your full self to the office and acknowledge that you're a human being, and we all are, but also that we're here to do a job and we have to try and do our best. And I think navigating some of those boundaries can be very challenging for leaders.
Setting boundaries it can set you up for such great success, but holding yourself accountable to those boundaries can sometimes be a challenge too. So not only setting boundaries, but then holding yourself accountable to the boundaries that you do set. It can also be, in my opinion, that can also be a challenge as well.
Oh yeah. I've just certainly had sometimes colleagues reach out and they're like, I want to be friends with you on Facebook. I was like, I would love to be friends with you on Facebook whenever one of us no longer works here. And it was just like, sometimes well received and sometimes not.
Yeah, but you're staying with what you believe to be the right boundary for you and make sure that you're not crossing those lines personally and professionally, which I commend you for sticking to that. So let's shift a little bit and talk about the initiatives and programs that either you work on directly or that you oversee in your role, which I know we covered the kind of wide range of programs that the foundation oversees. But is there any one that you hope or that you see having a big impact on the industry moving forward? And in what way do you see that impact?
I think that of like a lot of the initiatives that are having a huge impact, like WGA is, one of the programs at NGA that I think makes a difference for the makeup of leadership teams in grocery. I think WGA is helping raise people from cross experience levels in the industry. And so I'm really hopeful that the more we do there, the bigger impact it's going to have on the industry down the line, raising up leaders that maybe weren't going to be tapped otherwise and giving opportunities. I know you all do a great job of even looping in our student programs and reaching out and saying, hey, we can have women students on the WGA board and giving them an opportunity to see how a board runs and what that looks like. I think that's so valuable, this kind of the ways that we're piecing all of those things together.
And I think you said elevate leaders, not only elevate leaders that maybe wouldn't have otherwise be tapped, but also recognizing and helping attract potential leaders into the industry by those student programs or by offering initiatives like this as an industry. It's something unique that we offer in the independent space that I don't think we see elsewhere. And so just how do we continue to grow the industry and make sure that we're developing strong talent going forward?
Absolutely.
So as we talk about supporting women in the industry, do you have anyone throughout your career that's helped support you or that inspired or motivated you in some way?
Yeah, I would say, another kind of mentor of mine when I first started working at NGA is Ted Mason. He is a former, I think, president of the Kentucky Grocers Association, maybe has done some time with NGA previously, FMI, has been in the industry a long time. And he was just really great for me to talk through, what does it really look like to operate a grocery store? If he'd been in grocery stores himself and took the time to really meet with me, explain the intricacies of grocery, talking through grocery math, talking about the net profit, how you set pricing. I think all of that was extremely important to making sure that I was on a good path at NGA to keep moving up and keep growing. And I really, really value the time he spent with me to explain that.
I love that. Just spending time with somebody. And I think that's something that sometimes can get passed by. If you're willing to sit down and share advice, share experiences, share stories, share information, share knowledge, so much can be achieved together in this industry. And I love that somebody that took the time to do that has stayed with you and impacted you in that capacity. So as we look towards the future, what trends do you see shaping what's next for us?
So this is somewhat influenced by the fact that we in the foundation have a program called SEMTAC. It's our grant to help grocers with Snap Online. But the more we've dived into Snap Online, the more I've just also thought about online shopping in general. And the more we talk to the students who are involved in our programs, it does feel like Gen Z is they really tend to purchase online from the folks that we talk to. I mean, there's always outliers. And I think people who care about the grocery industry love going to a grocery store and shopping in person. So sometimes we're in our own echo chamber, but a lot of the students we talk about online shopping and being able to click and pick it up and have it delivered. And I think a lot about how we talk at our events about how independent grocers tend to differentiate themselves through the in-store experience. And that personal touch when you go to the store and someone remembers your name, or they're helping you cut your meat, or helping you select some really great stuff from the bakery. Those are all in-store experiences that is Gen Z going to, as they age, start caring about more? Or are they going to continue really valuing the efficiency of online shopping and being able to keep their lives moving? And so I'm really interested in seeing how independent grocers will continue to adopt and adjust as online shopping trends shift. I think that's going to be a really notable trend. Keep looking at, keep wrestling with, keep looking at.
Yeah, the future shopper really is interesting to me, and watching what they're going to shift towards and where that's going to fall, because I think digital and online is such an important part of the system, but in-store experience is not lost today. So how that shifts and what that shapes up to be for the future is something I'm keeping an eye on as well. What excites you the most about the future of the industry?
That we do seem to be willing to keep evolving. Every, I think, conference I've been to in the past year or two is really looking to the future and how grocery is going to keep changing and evolving, and how to independent not only keep pace, but actually set the pace in certain ways. And I'm just excited that we aren't an industry looking to the past and trying to figure out how we continue just doing it the way we've always done it. We are looking for ways to innovate, and I'm excited to see, what the next big innovation is going to look like.
You and me both. Chelsea, do you have any advice you would give someone aspiring to join the industry or continue advancing their career in grocery?
Taking in podcasts like this one, looking to connect with others. We were talking earlier about how important community is to me and connections. I think if you're interested in learning more about grocery or being a part of it, reaching out to people and saying, hey, I see you work in grocery, or I see you have experience in this. Do you have time for a coffee? Most people are going to say yes to that, is what I have found. I know that I always feel really honored when somebody reaches out to me to ask those kinds of questions. That's just the best way to learn.
Absolutely. And I think, to me, the heart of this industry is the relationships and the networking that happens within it, and building those relationships, because then you can lean into those. And I had this conversation not too long ago with somebody else about the coffee chats. And even if somebody doesn't have time in their schedule currently to have that time to give, they typically can refer you to somebody else that does. And so I think that just speaks volumes to everybody is willing to help. And even though it may not fit on their plate at the time, they can usually give you or refer you to somebody else that could. And so just reaching out and asking those questions, Chelsea, I think is fantastic advice.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Even leaving it open to if you don't have time, do you have somebody you'd recommend me speaking to?
Yeah. And I think the networks that are built, they typically do, and they're very willing to share that and can continue to open your network as well. So Chelsea, thank you for sharing your story and your voice with us today. I appreciate everything you're doing for the grocery industry, through all of your work through the foundation and through NGA. Keep leading, keep inspiring, and I look forward to following the impact you continue to make.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Kristin.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I hope it sparked ideas, inspiration, and a reminder of the impact you make every day. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss a conversation, and consider leaving a review to help others discover grocery from her seat. With gratitude, making a difference one story at a time.
Thank you for listening to today's insightful interview on the Grocery from Her Seat podcast. If you think someone should hear her story, please share this podcast with a friend. You don't want to miss any episodes this season, so be sure to subscribe. And remember, more people will hear about stories of her success if you like, follow, and leave a 5-star review. Episodes are sponsored by NGA, hosted by WGA President Kristin Popp, and published by Rachel Milo with SWA Marketing. Until next time, continue your great work in the independent grocery industry.